Violence, violence, violence. All over the media, we've been seeing violence lately, guys. Yes, my dear. The topic of this evening's episode, violence. You're sure right. It existed even then. So we like to compare the past to the present, and we like to think in our minds that it just wasn't that bad. Oh, yes, it was. Oh, yes, it was. You know the difference, though? We didn't have social media. All we had was mainstream media. And guess what? Whatever stories they selected to tell us, those are the stories that we got. Today, we get news at a fast pace all around the world. We not only see violence in America, we see it in Africa, we see it in Mexico, we see it everywhere. So, guess what, guys? It's not that things are new, it's just that technology changes. And guess what? Things grow more and more grotesque and rapid along the way. So, let's get into tonight's episode and let's talk about violence. And we're going to dive into some important things that I believe that intertwine violence on a social, systemic, and spiritual level that affect us all right after this.
Never stop, I'll get it if I want it. Gotta make to myself a promise. I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top, yeah. You know I'm always honest. There ain't no way I'm ever stopping. I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top, yeah.
Violence. Why try to avoid it when it's so prevalent in our faces, right? From the past shooting of Charlie all the way to the women who are disappearing in the Houston bios, even to the children who are being child trafficked, all the way down to organ harvesting. Look, guys, there is a lot going on, but it's not new. It's just that we have more media, more images, more messages that are bombarding us more than we had in the past. Why? Technology has made that information more available. What I want to point out is that violence in America is not random. It's actually social, systemic, and spiritual. Each one feeds one another. And if you try to fix one without fixing the other, you tend to fall short. I think that's why violence is such a thing to try to heal when it comes to the hearts of mankind. Because violence is not just within the hearts of each other, violence can be in the hearts without. You can have it in government, you can have it in police forces, you can have it in your families. I mean, violence is just everywhere, right? And so, even if you try to fix violence within, what do you do when you have violence without? You have war, tariffs, everything you can think of. We just seen recently just how serious it can get when people start talking about just tariffs, which are foreign taxes, right? It gets a little bit of violent. Now, it may not be the kind of violence where somebody is like trying to shoot you or SAU or something like that, but it's the kind of violence where it threatens your income. It threatens future incomes. And that's violence. Why? Because it'll start creating more crime, more poverty if we don't get a hold to it. Remember, we pay taxes, a percentage here in the United States of America, plus the tariffs that we have to pay. It gets deep, y'all. Whether violence is spiritual or physical, it exists. And it's not just going to go away because we turn the other cheek. So, how do we deal with this thing that's called violence? When we see violence, how do we feel? What do we think? When we see violence on our televisions, on social media, and any other platform, what is the first thing that comes to mind? I can only imagine the many thoughts that run across our head when we see images so vivid and we hear messages so unnerving that it causes us to say, what is this that we're looking at, right? What is this right before our eyes? So, what's the real when it comes to violence? Is violence something that's enacted upon good people that want to make good changes in the earth and do great things in the earth? Or is it a silent cry of the injustices that people go through socially, spiritually, economically, and on every level? And on every level. Can violent people heal? Or is violent such a volcano that's waiting to erupt underneath that no matter what you try to do, it's going to find its way to its head regardless? Now, even though I don't really have all the answers to this simple word called violence, I do know this. It shows itself in three important forms, like I said earlier, that affect us every day in America. Let's start with number one: systemic violence. It is baked into institutions, policies, and structures. Number two, social violence. This happens in everyday relationships and communities. Number three, spiritual violence. This is a little bit deeper. It's about the structure of values, morals, and having that connection to what we call our higher power. So let's get into these 3 points that I want to talk about and expound upon a little bit more so we can get a better and deeper understanding of this thing called violence. Now, before I step into the 3 points that I want to talk about, I'm going to show clips throughout this particular episode about violence in the media, and so that you can get to see how I put together social, systemic, and spiritual, and how it is playing out in real time in the United States of America, okay? With that being said, I want to start off with this first clip with Chris Cuomo, and he's talking about the killing of Charlie Kirk, which is killing Americans. So let's go to our first clip. I want you to hear a little bit of what he's saying, and then I'll come back with my commentary.
This clip is used for commentary, analysis, and education under Section 107 of the Copyright Act.
You're welcome to News Nation. This is where right and left come to be reasonable. But you know what? Forget it. I'm not saying it anymore. Forget right and left. I don't want to hear from either side. I don't want to hear that this is about one side or the other. You are both killing us. Do you understand? Literally and figuratively. The truth is, there are so many acts of political violence we can't keep track. Minnesota, Colorado, 2 attempts on the President of the United States. Now this, Charlie Kirk's murder. And who can believe that there won't be more? Now, I would say God forbid. But you know what? If you believe in God, you also believe that he gave us free will and we are using it to destroy his blessings. So let's just focus not on right and left, right and wrong. Can we just start here? In America, killing someone for what they say is wrong. Period. We all know the problem. Here is a solution. Now, I am dead set against any type of limitations on speech in America as a function of government intervention. That's what the First Amendment is about. But businesses make choices. Elon, you can tell me to piss off, but I never would want anything bad to happen to you or your family or anything because of what you say. And I think you can help here. I think you and the other tech bros should change your algorithms to stop juicing and making money off the most provocative, destructive, and extreme shite. Because that's what social media has become.
I would have to say I agree. But let me break down why I agree. So remember when I said that violence is intertwined socially, systemically, and spiritually? Let's talk about systemically, right? I want to talk about systemic issues. We hear that word a lot, right? It's tossed around like, I don't know, like candy. Systemic racism, systemic injustice, systemic this and systemic that. Well, as I guess you can say, obtain more knowledge, and I get to dig deeper into research, and I really get to look at things for what they really are. I've come to terms to recognize that when you look up the word system, system means basically a way of thinking, right? It means a method or a way of doing things, right? And the more I look at our society and the more I look at the things that we call systemic or a system issue, I really realize it's not a system issue at all. You know what it is? It's a moral issue. It's an unethical issue. And that's different from a system. You see, a system is something that you can fix, right? You can fix a system. You really can. If you really just slow down and think about a system. You have a system when you take care of your kids. You have a system when you go to work and you sit at your desk and you're doing your job. You have a system when you getting ready to plan for an organization or some type of event, all right? There's a system that you have in place. There's a way and a mode and a mean on how you do things. And if it's not quite working out, what you end up doing is you tweak it, right? You tweak it, you work on that needs to be done, that's better. Or you basically just kind of like throw that system out and you bring in a new system, right? But when you look at violence and when you look at immoral character, evil behavior, things that we call race, is nothing more than just jealousy and hatred, right? People trying to stop one another, block one another. People trying to say that, comparing each other's features and how one another look. We all know that people don't care about that. That's not the most important thing. What people care is about the competition. What people care is about the opportunities. What people care about is the land, the property, prosperity. Nobody really cares about your color of your skin. I guarantee you, if you're a billionaire and someone is a white supremacist, I guess you could say, and that person was in dire need and no one would help them and they're about to lose their home, do you think for one moment that they're going to turn your money away if you paid for their home to be okay? You understand what I'm saying? Like, people just really, they're not going to say to you, oh, you're not my color. I just hate you. I don't need your money. Bye. I'd rather lose my house. Bye. Sorry. It's just a game that people play, right? It's a con game. It's always been that way. A con game. It's a con game. It's a psychological thriller that goes on in the minds of people all over the world. It's just a thriller. And by the time you get through with the thrill and the thrill is gone, you still have to face reality. We all live up on this earth. We all deal with each other. We all go to work. We all do the things that we have to do. All take care of their children's, all take care of their families. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what race you are. It's a con game. So when you look at what's really happening underneath the con game, what you're looking at is immoral character, immoral behavior. You understand what I'm saying? So some things are not a system. When you look at too many babies being aborted and children just being aborted, that's not a system issue. That's an immoral issue. When you look at the legalization of drugs and the epidemic of a system of what we call a system and it's drugs with the youth and all kind of things going on, that's not a system issue. That's an immoral issue. Allowing drugs to be within our communities, allowing drugs to be within our neighborhoods, legalizing certain substances, that's only going to make matters worse because, listen to me closely, people want more what? Revenue. That's a greed issue. That's not considering the people as a whole. That's a greed issue that has nothing to do with a system. You can always fix a system. And if it doesn't work, you can throw it out. Guess what? And rebuild a new system. But when it comes to immoral matters, things of the heart, wickedness, ideas, thoughts, all of that, that's not so easy to throw away. We know that, right? So let's continue. When we are dealing with systemic violence, I want to point out some things to you so you can really get a grip like of what I'm talking about when I say systemic violence, right? It usually comes in conversations like this. In institution policies and structures, you would find systemic violence. Examples can be mass incarceration, housing discrimination, underfunded schools, economic equality or inequality, and militarized policing, right? Now, let's take a look at a recent media clip from Chicago residents addressing Mayor Brandon over what they perceive to be as policy and institutional injustice concerning Black residents in Chicago.
I, and state your name,
I, Brandon Johnson,
do solemnly swear
that
I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois.
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois.
For nearly 2 years, the City of Chicago has refused to resolve a case that blatantly violates the 5th and 14th Amendment. Instead, they have continued to commit federal law violations and support fraudulent documents filed by City Chicago attorney Bradley Wilson. Ironically, the city is prioritizing settling cases against the police, even in instances where individuals shot at officers first, while disregarding clear constitutional and legal breaches in this matter. Democrats love to accuse Trump and Republicans of corruption and constitutional violations. Yet, under their leadership in Chicago, Black families like mine face the same abuses: constitutional rights ignored, fraudulent actions covered up, and public corruption left unchecked. Mayor Brandon Johnson, you took an oath to uphold the Constitution. Or when you took an oath, was it only intended to fight for the 10th and 14th Amendments regarding illegal aliens? You're paying for votes to pass the budget. Everything about this body and administration is unconstitutional.
Now, before you get offended and try to stop me from saying what I'm going to say, you're a biblical person, so you say, just like I am. The Bible speaks of stupidity. The Bible says that the children of Israel were a stupid, stubborn, stiff-necked people. That was the reason why they couldn't get out the wilderness. The stupidity of this administration, the stupidity of this administration to think that we don't know any better than to know that you all are going to pass that budget with all those tax increases. The stupidity to think that we don't know that you all could have corrected this stuff a long time ago. The stupidity to think that you all could come with this type of cut, this type of recommendation, and not come with the true accounting of how much money was spent on these illegals. You all have yet to be transparent with that. That's the biggest financial downfall of the city. Yet, there has not been any type of audit, any type of financial accounting for illegal immigration. It is stupidity of this administration to think that we did not know the other day at the budget meeting when they had the law department here, that key members of the law department that sit in here every day, like that Levine, like that other one with the glasses, to think, Mary Richardson, Lori, that you really could make us try to think that the city and the county are so different, so separate, that they don't intertwine with one another, especially when it comes to public corruption. For you to insult people like that. For you all to think that we believe that you did an 800 survey of voters that made you all step back and look at what you were voting on when we stood at this mic. And I told you that if you voted wrong for money, we was coming for them seats. That's where it came from. Not from no fake 800 people. So now, we're going to continue with what we started. Make you famous Friday. Until you all get it through your thick heads that we not playing.
Y'all like my blue shoes? They hurt. Because that's all you Democrats been giving is pain. I came down here a little bit at the same time as Zoe, Miss Jackson, and I've been homeless. My child and I have been on the streets. We actually slept in the car on Thanksgiving because some bogus stuff with some Democrats wouldn't get us in the apartment when the landlord signed the lease on the 22nd. But exactly, they can get the illegals in. You can get them in, you can get them in, Brandon, can you? You can give everything to them, even though I gave you information on how the shelters treat our people, etc. But y'all can build these nice shelters and put them in these nice hotels, you know. But, you know, I got a little stability now. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to be speaking a little different and a little better. I ain't going to cuss you out like they told me not to. I ain't going to get you. I ain't going to get you. Because I'm not fake here. It's just that I'm a real man and a real father. So I feel a different hurt than maybe you do. And that makeup ain't for him. Don't crack jokes on him. That's for his wife. You know what I'm saying? I'm natural. My wife is natural. We will. I ain't faking. I ain't faking and saying, excuse me, I'm not faking and saying who I am. I tell them all the time, I'm a Moorish American, whether who like it or not. I stand on that. I ain't faking like Miss Clay, Islam, and more and things like that. You ain't even got a bay on your name. Stop faking. I ain't faking like Jeanette Taylor, claiming, oh, we for the people, and then vote something different against the people. And I'm running for alderman in that ward, in the 20th ward. And I'm standing on that 20 of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So the streets know what I'm talking about. I'm running for that ward. A real man, a real person for the community.
Now, how does this tie in into these conditions? How does what this video I just showed you or this clip tie in? Where does violence feel? Do you sense violence in the tones and in the conversations? Do you sense a little violence? No, you don't see nobody throwing nothing. You don't see nobody acting a fool, but you hear the undertones, right? And that's what we fail to realize. When there is perceived injustice, it can tend to breed violence. It can tend to breed anger. You understand what I'm saying? Bitterness, rebellion. Do you understand that? So yeah, poverty, lack of opportunity, and cycles of punishment instead of healing. All of that can breed what's called violence. It don't start out violent right away, but what ends up happening is that a little bit of anger and a little bit of bitterness on down the line can turn into destructive behavior, which ends up being violence. Barriers. When we look at the barriers in situations like this, as in the one in Chicago, entrenched laws and lobbying power that protects the status quo, right? Political polarization preventing reforms. In other words, when it's so divided that people cannot come to a conclusion, they cannot come to a solution because they're always arguing and nobody can agree on anything. Profit motives. You have to understand any type of prison, industrial complex, defense industries, anything that brings profit, medical field, everything, when it comes to dealing with violence, right? Mental health, all these kind of things. Every institution is profiting from violence. Believe it or not, people profit from violence. And that's why violence is not always so easy to heal. You may be able to take yourself personally and deal with your own anger or any type of issues that you feel that is popping up in your life. But when you're dealing with a whole society, when you're dealing with a whole people, it's not that easy. And then when you're dealing with people who have unethical, immoral character, and they have a lot of greed going on, it's definitely not going to be easy. Why? Because those things and cycles are perpetrated so that that type of income can continue. And that's what I mean by it's so intertwined. It has nothing to do with just, somebody just jumping up one day, acting a fool, and they just violent. You understand what I'm saying? It starts and stems from somewhere. Let's continue. Social violence. Let's talk about it. This happens in everyday relationships and communities, right? I want to show you a quick clip. And this clip had to do with a local shooting right here in Austin. You've probably heard of it. And it was a young person or some fellow. He decided to go and shoot up at a Target. Of course, some people got harmed. And I just want to show you this quick clip.
We're getting a closer look at how a deadly rampage at a North Austin Target's parking lot unfolded and what could happen next to the suspect. And today at that Target, we saw increased security. Armed guards were walking with employees who were collecting shopping carts in the parking lot. One of their co-workers, Rosa Machuca, who's on the left side of your screen, pictured here with their fiance, was gunned down while doing that exact job on Monday.
32-year-old Ethan Ninecker faces murder charges for Machuca's death, as well as the deaths of Adam Chow and his 4-year-old granddaughter Astrid, who were killed when they were trying to leave the parking lot. Court documents show Ninecker confessed to police.
Now, the question we would have to ask is where exactly do he get his ideas from? Like, is he influenced by entertainment? Is he influenced by family? Is he influenced by friends? Or is this just his own particular thinking? Because, I don't believe that you're just in the world and you're just sitting up thinking thoughts one day. I do believe that there's a lot of influences, especially as young people such as his age. And with all of the violence on social media and all of the violence, I guess you can say just in the world in general, television, everything, music, everything, that can kind of compound things, correct? So again, that just goes to show you just even in violence, the way that people think sometimes, right? How they rationalize things, right? But again, some of those barriers are deep division on race, class, politics, and culture, media amplification of conflict and fear, lack of trust in communities, institutions, police, government, and even churches.
We want to take you now to Minneapolis, where officials are giving an update on yesterday's fatal shooting inside a local church packed with school children. Let's listen in.
HARA, I am the Minneapolis police chief. This has been a very difficult week for our community here in Minneapolis. As we continue to move along this difficult path of healing, I want the community to know that even in the face of evil, the Minneapolis Police Department and all of our law enforcement partners collectively stand together with you. We stand with our families that have been affected by this senseless violence, as well as with the parish community. We will continue to be here for all of you. As the investigation continues, we will continue working alongside our county, state, and federal law enforcement partners as we continue to be critical as we piece together exactly what happened. At this time, we have identified a total of 20 victims that had injuries resulting from gunfire, including the 8- and 10-year-old who were killed yesterday. 15 of the injured are children between the ages of 6 and 15. 3 of those injured are adults in their 80s. Those who remain hospitalized need all of our support as we continue to pray for a speedy recovery for all of our victims. There were 4 search warrants that were executed yesterday. 1 at the church, the others were executed at residences believed to be associated with the shooter. 1 of those residences was in the city of Minneapolis, a second one was in Richfield, and a third one was in St. Louis Park, which are both bordering municipalities. Additional evidence was recovered as a result of these warrants. Literally hundreds of pieces of evidence have been recovered thus far, which include electronic devices that will be further searched and processed. It now becomes our job collectively with all of law enforcement to process that evidence. And so this investigation will continue, and we will follow all of the evidence to its logical conclusion. What we have seen so far is this is an individual who, unfortunately, like so many other mass shooters that we have seen in this country too often and around the world, had some deranged fascination with previous mass shootings and very disturbing writings that demonstrate hatred towards many different individuals and different groups of people. And he fantasized about the plans of other mass shooters. Unfortunately, again, this has become all too common in our society. That being said, we know ultimately the purpose of the shooter's actions was to obtain notoriety for the shooter themselves.
I want to show you another clip, and this clip has to do with immigration and ICE. So first I'm going to show you the one on immigration, then I'm going to show you the one on ICE, right? And we'll come back and we'll expound upon it a little bit, and I'll share some of my thoughts, and we'll go from there.
No me toques, señora. Adiós, adiós. 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 Oh, come on, man.
Now, tonight, attacks against Border Patrol agents and ICE officers are skyrocketing. The violence playing out across the country. Bullet holes at a Border Patrol facility in McAllen, Texas. The suspect killed in the act. A detention center in Prairieland, Texas targeted as well. Vehicles vandalized and 10 people arrested and charged with attempted murder of federal officers.
It was a planned ambush with the intent to kill ICE corrections officers. Make no mistake, this was not a so-called peaceful protest.
The growing list of attacks, both shocking and part of a widening trend of agents tasked with enforcing immigration law targeted, up nearly 700.
Carolyn, very quickly, just following up on the question on immigration first. President Trump, during the course of the campaign in 2024, said the following about illegal immigration. He said, they're going back home where they belong, and we start with the criminals. There are many, many criminals. NBC News has learned that ICE arrested 1,179 undocumented immigrants on Sunday, but nearly half of them, 566 of the migrants, appear to have no prior criminal record besides entering the country illegally. Is the president still focused exclusively, which is a civil crime, it's not criminal.
It's federal crime.
So I'm asking, though, he said he was going to focus on those violent offenders first. So is violent offenders no longer the predicate for these people to be deported?
The president has said countless times on the campaign trail, I've been with him at the rallies, I know you've been there covering them too, Peter, that he is focused on launching the largest mass deportation operation in American history of illegal criminals. And if you are an individual, a foreign national, who illegally enters the United States of America, you are, by definition, a criminal. And so therefore, you are subject to deportation.
I apologize for interrupting. So to be clear, it's not violent criminals do not receive precedence in terms of the deportations taking place.
The president has also said two things can be true at the same time. We want to deport illegal criminals, illegal immigrants from this country, but the president has said that, of course, the illegal criminal drug dealers, the rapists, the murderers, the individuals who have committed heinous acts on the interior of our country and who have terrorized law-abiding American citizens, absolutely, those should be the priority of ICE, but that doesn't mean that the other illegal criminals who entered our nation's borders are off the table.
So, as you can see, they're basically sitting there defining, or I guess you could say pretty much separating what they consider to be the violent criminals when it comes to immigration versus those who are not violent at all, but they still have broken the law. And like she said, it's considered a federal law. Now, I think sometimes we have to be careful because, people are, especially in America, right? People are real loose with the lips, right? And so people can say things that can kind of be harmful or distasteful or I guess you can say with all the fighting and the strifing and all of the things that was going on, especially like in Chicago, right? People can get wounded and people can say things that sometimes they normally wouldn't say if all these issues wasn't occurring between the races and what people perceive as injustice, within America and without America or outside of America. But again, it just goes to show you that when we're dealing with violence, it's on such levels that sometimes it's not even just us as Americans, it may be border issues too. Because you need to see both sides, right? There's a lot of clips that's been out there about ICE attacking people, but I don't think people get to see that ICE also gets attacked too. I would say it would have to be the 90s. So it was I think it was like the early 90s. Yeah, pretty much the early 90s. I remember, and guys, I don't know if you remember this. I'm from Dallas, so born and raised. So if you were in any border state, I would say California, Texas, Nevada, all these types of places, right? I remember when I was younger during that time and I had my kids with me, I remember there was this little known secret, and this is what Americans do not talk about at all a lot, right? So there was this little known secret about people bringing people from the border here, right? So people would be brought from the border here. We all knew that these were illegal immigrants. We knew this, right? So we didn't know like the full details of the things like we know today, like all of the information, the terminology that goes with it, the laws, all that kind of stuff. Because like I said, social media has provided us such context on all of the things that are going on that, we used to didn't know at that time, right? We just knew, okay, these were illegal immigrants. They would get on back of trucks early in the morning and they would ride out and they would go work on construction sites or whatever it is that they were assigned to do, right? And we would go to our jobs, whether that was Walmart, it could be any job, right? Walmart, call centers or whatever. We go to our jobs. In the evenings, we would get off. In the evenings, they would get off. And it was a little well-known secret, right? So it wasn't like people were just sneaking over here. The truth is they were being snuck over here. And they were being worked for little, very little money, right? And they would get these work sites and jobs done, right? And what ended up happening is that some of these people, if not all of them, they would be promised citizenship. And unfortunately, this is what would happen, guys. We know we used to cry with these people, right? And unfortunately, a lot of them would get turned away and only a certain amount would get kept. What ended up happening is that they would come and they would be mourning when they would come back from these places to find out that they wasn't going to be able to stay. They would work very, very hard at that time. They would do their jobs, but it was always in hopes of maybe I can get citizenship, maybe I could stay. So I don't know if some of you Americans, especially you younger people today, are aware of that, but that was a little known secret in America. And truth be told, some of that stuff still goes on today, right? So when we talk about immigration, I think America needs to be a little bit more fair. They have to understand that some of the people were not crossing the border illegally. They were brought here illegally by officials or some type of people that were sneaking them here. I'm not quite for sure who was doing the sneaking, but they were sneaking them here. Like I say, with the advent of everybody having a camera phone and everybody can go where they want to go now, stuff is more loose, information is more loose, and you can just find out all these things today, right? So it's different, guys. So I just wanted to give a little bit of heads up on that because people really do need to understand that it's injustice on both sides. If you just want to be fair, right? And at TCLN, I like to be fair. I bring in truthful news and truthful commentary, but I also bring in our experiences that we know to be true because our experiences are true and we've had them, right? So let's continue. I want to continue to move on. I want to talk about spiritual barriers because again, this is intertwined with spiritual, and this is the loss of our moral compass, right? Materialism, greed, cynicism, overpowering things like compassion, forgiveness, and respect. There's two sides to that. When you have compassion, forgiveness, respect, it's so been played on and it's so been manipulated that people are not close to it anymore. You understand what I'm saying? It's just words now, is what I'm saying. Like old Janet Jackson say, honey, I'm sorry, it's just all played out. That's true. People can keep playing on words of forgiveness. They can keep playing on words of compassion. But with that comes wisdom. And when we don't have wisdom, we tend to fall into same patterns, same destructive behavior, and it keeps causing violence, crime, all types of things, right? So there's a balance when it comes to that. And that's why I really do love the scripture from the Bible when it states, wisdom is the principal thing, and in all you're getting, get an understanding. Proverbs, right? How many times people thought they've been in love? I'm in love. Only 2 months later to be in hate, right? Because what you thought was love was nothing more than a trap or deception. So all of those words that sound good, sound fuzzy, it comes with wisdom. If we don't have wisdom to balance things out, then you fall into destructive, violent behavior. I believe that pastors need to be very, very careful when it comes to people's lives. I believe that no matter what you say, pastors have a double standard, right? So at least a lot of them do. I wouldn't say all, but a lot of them. One minute they want to be held in esteem and respect and as God's chosen to carry out his word or his gospel or whatever they want to say, right? And then in the next minute, when they having bad behavior, they want to scream, oh, we're just human. You can't just put us on pedestals and this and this and that. I don't think that people are putting you on pedestals. I think that a lot of times scriptures are so quoted out of context that people put themselves on pedestals, because anytime people try to bring truth to light or light to truth, the scriptures are always taken out of context. Touch not my anointed, do my prophets no harm. So there's no open dialogue to be able to have conversations with some of the leaders about some of the behaviors that they have, right? And this is not to say that, just like Charlie Kirk, no one deserves to die. No one deserves to be hurt. None of these things deserve because people don't like something or something doesn't go quite right. But you have to understand, our world is our world and people are different. And sometimes if you strike the wrong match, you just might get the wrong fire. You understand what I'm saying? So I think pastors need to really don't just look outward to the world just to say that people are going crazy, they're losing themselves, they're not in touch with God, and they're just disrespecting the churches or shooting up the churches and all this kind of stuff. You also have to look within. And pastors, you also have to do some changing within. There's been a lot of things and a lot of corruption in the churches. And when people get fed up or when people don't like something, they can end up doing some very horrible things because people can feel that horrible things are being done to them. So it's this two-way street, and that's kind of what I wanted to touch on when it comes to that. Leadership is important in the church. Ethics and morals is important. I say it all the time. A doctor cannot go and get a license and then just start chopping bodies up and then make the excuse, well, I'm only human, I'm gonna make mistakes. No, he's held accountable to laws. He's held accountable to different codes and different principles. And so it is with a real estate agent, right? Same thing. And so it is with bishops, pastors, and all of that. Guys, you are held accountable to a higher standard. That law may not be the physical court law, but it's definitely the spiritual law of the spirit and of the Bible. You are held accountable. You can't be out here doing what other people do because your job is to be the example. When you're not the example, then they're going to be people that's going to treat you as not the example. And you know how that go. Violence, there's no room for it in anything, but people do exact violence when, again, they feel like horrible things has happened to them and other people in the world. Right? With that being said, I'm going to move into the last portion of what I wanted to talk about. Because, see, violence don't have to define America. It doesn't. Americans have to understand that there are levels that violence operate on. And once you understand those intricate levels, then you can start dealing with the core issue, which is basically a spiritual issue. You understand what I'm saying? Everything leads back to a spiritual issue. It leads back to the root. It leads back to ethics and morals. You understand what I'm saying? When things are not being done right, it can lead to some horrible things happening. You understand what I'm saying? With the exception that you're going to always have people who are going to be bloodthirsty, who want to take lives, who just want to do evil, no matter how you try to feed them what's right, tell them what's right, or put them in better environments. There's just people like that in this world. And that's something that I don't even know if you can change. I'm not even trying to dig up a solution for that. But what I am saying is that since we know the entire world is not like that, let's focus on what's not like that and what are some of the things we can fix socially, systemically, and spiritually. You understand what I'm saying? When we start working toward those root things, each individual in all things that we do, I don't care if you're teaching, I don't care if you're a principal, I don't care if you're a government official, whoever you are, everybody putting in the work, everybody doing what's right, it's going to eventually tilt the ship. And the ship is going to start steering in the right direction. But when we keep allowing things to be as it is, then you can't expect change. You just can't expect change. You have to deal with churches who are abusing people. You have to deal with institutions who are abusing people. You have to deal with individuals who are causing harm to others in the world. It has to be dealt with. We can't just turn the cheek and say, oh, that's just the way it is. It has to be dealt with. And everybody has a role that they have to play. You understand what I'm saying? Within the work or within the scope of what they do in this world. Whether that's inspiration, inspiring somebody, whether that's helping somebody with physical helps and resources, or whatever that may be, in whatever capacity that it shows up for you. All of us are different. All of us are exposed to different resources, different income levels, or whatever. It's how it shows up for you. It's what's in your heart and how you feel that you can contribute to what's known as the greater good, right? Now, I want to show you one last clip. I did an interview with a young lady. I think this is very important. And this young lady worked as a producer and executive on Disney. So she was able to work with Disney. And I was able to do an interview with her. What I talked about was the entertainment world, music, cartoons with children, all of this imagery and what you call sounds and information that is getting inside of younger people and the youth and just people in general. I'm going to close this session out with this particular clip, this particular interview, and I hope that you gain some insights out of it. I hope it's information in there that can help you think broader and to whatever journey you're on. You understand what I'm saying? Whether you're an influencer, whether you're a teacher, a politician, it doesn't matter. Or if you're a mom, what are some of the things that you can take out of this interview that can maybe be inspiring for you to use in your everyday life and in the life of others? Episode, I cover teen violence, mass shooting, and the entertainment industry's role in America's public school systems. And if the FCC was doing enough to regulate public broadcasts on television, radio, and online media. In today's episode, I want to continue that compelling conversation with our guest, Miss Carlina Williams. Question. Now, in your career of entertainment, when you're dealing with I know you've dealt with children, right? And and you've dealt with making content. Is that correct, with children and stuff like that? I want to make sure I'm saying it right.
Creating children's programming.
Yeah, creating children's programming. Number one, what is your passion behind that? So I want to ask that question first. What motivates you to do that when you're working with children?
Oh, what inspired me to create children's
Mhm.
programming? Growing up as a kid and watching what's on television, realizing how much that inspired me to be who I am. One of my favorite shows growing up was Arthur, and it was because Arthur was so rooted in his family. And honestly, if you think about Arthur, he just wanted to be a good friend to his friends. And that's what I continue to do and aspire to be. So it was very simple back then, but it really shaped kind of who you are. What you watch shaped out what kind of person you either A, wanted to be, or B, who you were, and validated that. So realizing how much power children's programming has in cultivating the future, I wanted to make sure that I was involved in helping to create positive programming that people can continue to watch for decades to come, and we can continue creating amazing citizens in our society.
But it was in such a good, positive way to where you didn't go to bed at nighttime and think about images. And I'm talking about public television now. I'm not talking about cable. You understand what I'm saying? Cable is you get what you pay for. I'm talking about public radio station, public, and you could lay down at night. You didn't see all the shooting and all that kind of stuff. I remember Murder, She Wrote. There was not all blood all over the place and just gruesome things, all of the things that we see today. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because all of that positive content, even though it wasn't perfect, Carlina, you understand what I'm saying? It's made me who I am today, and why I address these issues today. You understand what I'm saying? Because I see the dynamics and the change. To have over content that was over cursing, you understand what I'm saying? Over vulgar, over certain types of things. Now you can turn on the television and hear the word bitch. You can hear all kind of stuff, and so that's why I'm so glad you said that, because and I do believe that we should keep sacred things sacred. And for those who want more adult themes, that's where your HBOs come in at. You understand what I'm saying? Your Cinemaxes come in at. And I think we need to kind of revamp on how we do things, because they say, well, what do they have to do with school shootings and this and this and that? As I mentioned in my last video, from the 80s, go look it up. You didn't have all those school shootings, but you didn't have all that stuff on television either. Like you said, sometimes it's not always physical. Sometimes it's mental and spiritual. And so how do we make each other better, on those levels like that? So I'm glad I'm having this conversation with you, really. So I want to leave you with these last words. I really want you to understand this one thing. Where do we understand that there's a moral code underlining all things that we do in this earth? We just can't have where it's just so explicit and so lasciviousness. And we just can't have like it's just so pure that we deny that we don't have evil and corruption in our world, right? So I am so glad that I had this interview today. And I am so glad that hopefully the audience will understand what TCLN is all about. And me, as the founder and the creator and host of that show and that media, is helping people to understand that we can have media and we can have platforms and we can have careers. And if we decide that we want to go to the extreme of all the dark parts and all the dark spaces, we have to understand that a lot of times everybody can't handle that. And you have to be careful what you're putting out there. You have to be careful of the influences you're putting out there. So if you notice, that's why I said FCC and the regulation of what is being regulated and monitored through cartoons, because as she brought up where the FCC do have strict guidelines. They have them, but just like we have laws, are they being enforced? Because when you have cartoons on television and in the media and on cable that is teaching children how to put spells on people, I don't think that that's being regulated, you guys. No child should be taught that. Now I'm finna get into my commentary on you. No child should ever be taught in any books. This is me talking, guys, whether you agree with me or not. Any books, any media, any of that. Your child should be taught the foundation and the principles of what's going to make them better human beings. Whether you agree with me or not, that's fine. I didn't ask you to. But I'm going to have my commentary at the end of the day. But it has gotten so bad that it has overflowed into our media. There was a time people used to look at our media and respect us. They respect our reporting. They respect our way of living. Now they look at us and laugh, And so if you don't think that these things don't affect us, you're sadly wrong. You're sadly wrong. They do, guys. They do.
Thank you for tuning in to TCLN Network, Austin Public. TCLN Network is independently produced by IBK Media Productions. To support TCLN Network financially, visit paypal.me/TCLN Network. Also, TCLN Channel Podcasts. To learn more about TCLN Network, visit thecreativeleadershipnetwork.com and follow on all socials, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram at IBK Media Works.